Hi, how's everybody doing today? This is Rich here on behalf of Rich TV Live with our very special guest. It is John, the CEO from Delta 9 Cannabis. How you doing today, John?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today. Happy New Year, first and foremost.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well.
So we've got a lot to cover. Delta 9 has really done very well over the last couple months, and we've been watching your story. And before we get into that, why don't we talk a little bit about what's going on overall in the cannabis sector? You can give us kind of your idea and your opinion on what's happening right now before we get into some real detailed analysis on your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, last year, 2019, the last 8 months of the year was, you know, a rocky ride for anyone participating in cannabis space, whether that's reporting issuers or investors or otherwise. So, I think for so long over 2019, the market was trying to find the bottom. A few points throughout the year, I think we thought we had found some material catalysts where the market could start to find traction, and it just didn't seem to hold. Through November, early December, I think for a lot of companies, we did start to find the bottom. Certainly for Delta 9 as an example, we saw the real selling or downward pressure on the stock through late November and early December, as well as what we've seen for the last 2 years, and that was a sharp rebound in our share price once that perhaps tax loss selling season starts to end. Our stock is up, I think, almost 100% since we have found the bottom. So nice to see that amidst some of the volatility in the market, we've or at least our stock has started to correct, and I think start to find some buying pressure. But more generally, I think we are starting to see that in a number of different cannabis names. Obviously, Organigram, Aphria reporting in the last 2 days, and I would characterize them as generally positive results for Aphria, and certainly materially positive results for Organigram. I think particularly what we've seen, and commentary that we get from institutional investors and people who have made a lot of money in this space over the last number of years, is for so much of 2019 they've said, we're kind of sitting on the sidelines. We're waiting to deploy capital. We are waiting to see what names are producing. We're trying to pick our timing and pick the bottom and pick the right names to be getting back in. I think we saw that with Organigram yesterday and into the market today, where people have been waiting for these materially positive results, and a lot of the analyst commentary has been that through this calendar year and into 2020, that's when we're going to start to see capital allocation towards companies that are producing positive operating results. And we're going to see a decoupling of share prices where, it's no longer the case that all of the companies carried in the HMMJ and the industry tracked ETFs are simply trading together on a daily basis. But, the winners are going to start to emerge here over the next year or 2 years. And I think we're starting to see the lead edge of that through the market starting correct into positive territory.
Now, you guys have done very well, like you said, over the last couple months, coming off the bottom, almost up 100%. Congratulations on your success. I see that in early December, Delta 9 received another major expansion approval from Health Canada. Can you tell us a little bit about this news?
Yes, I mean, first order of business for us for our cultivation, processing, manufacturing, and distribution operations for last calendar year, 2019, was to increase our number of grow pods in production. And, people should recall that our production platform is a little different than other companies. It's based around these smaller modular units, which we call grow pods, which, we feel have a number of merits as a production platform. It gives us a very high level of control over the growing environment. Again, all of this modular, scalable, built with risk mitigation in mind. So, to the fullest extent, we try and treat cannabis production as more of a standardized manufacturing process as opposed to an agricultural product. And, we've seen some of the downside with the large greenhouse operations, either the quality of the product or the systemic crop losses becoming an issue. And that's where we really feel that this modularized production platform has a lot of merit. So we started the year last year with 154 of these modular pods in production, licensed by Health Canada. Our annualized production capacity was about 4,200 kilos. Throughout the year, we achieved several expansion licenses from Health Canada. Most notably, at in beginning of December, we received approval for an additional 95 pods. So we now have 297 pods. We effectively doubled our output capacity over the calendar year 2019. We're now producing at a little over 8,300 kilos in
Great.
annualized production capacity. So, to me, I think comparing us versus a lot of industry peers, we're starting to produce a material amount of these products as we have added production capacity. We have also taken on additional supply contracts with provincial governments. We're now distributing across all of Western Canada, so Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. We'll
Wow.
now in our trek east as we look to move into Ontario and Newfoundland will be our next supply agreements that we're looking to secure. So as we ramp up production capacity of these high quality products, we're able to take on additional contracts in additional markets. But to have that approval come, I think, right at the end of calendar year 19, really positions us well to continue to see growth into 2020 from our production and wholesale unit.
Very good. And you also provided some forward guidance on the next phase of expansion of the facilities. Can you lead us through the forward-looking plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think, what a lot of producers are doing, and ourselves included, over 2019, and in light of the capital markets environment, is, we're looking to right size our capital deployment to fit the cannabis market from an operating standpoint right now. We're seeing oversupply, we're seeing shortages of retail stores. We need to make sure that our growth is sustainable, that we're not simply dumping money into an aggressive capex budget for the sake of growth and then not having an outlet into the market at a price per gram that we're wanting to see. We provided guidance along with our expansion update from Health Canada early December. The next expansion for us will be an incremental expansion. It's in pre-existing warehouse space on our site here, our 47-acre site in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The next expansion will expand our Health Canada perimeter from 80,000 square feet on 2 levels to 135,000 square feet on 2 levels. It will add 128 additional grow pods and add the capacity of about 3,600 kilos. So this will
Wow.
take up to about 11 to 12,000 kilos in overall production capacity. And again, we'll look to add that incrementally, deploy that capex throughout the year 2020, really make sure that this is coming online, in a way that's value added both for the company and for investors on a moving forward basis. And as a part of that expansion as well, we would note for investors that there is a purpose-built, we're calling our purpose-built processing center. It's a custom-built, fully automated production line, which will give us the ability to, on an automated basis, process about 25,000 kilos a year of dried flower material into bottles. So it gives us, I'll call it excess capacity to be able to acquire product from other producers, process that into the finished consumer packaged goods format, and increase our distribution. That should add efficiencies as well in terms of decreasing cost per gram. Obviously, we've gone a long way in terms of decreasing our cost per gram over last calendar year. I think notably our Q2, Q3 results saw production cost per gram close to $1 a gram. So we have achieved that low cost status. As we add in these automated features for things like packaging, that only serves to decrease overall costs.
Very good. So it seems like you guys are just growing like crazy. You guys never take a break, eh?
Never a dull day in the cannabis space.
Yeah, I noticed that. A lot of people have this stigma about cannabis, like, oh, cannabis users are potheads, they're lazy, they just sit around and eat munchies. But from what I've seen in this cannabis sector, you guys are some of the hardest working people. I also work very closely with Halo Labs, and I interview Kieran Sadu, and he's like traveling the whole world, and he's always busy. And you guys have had a really busy month at Delta 9 on the regulatory side. So you guys have not been taking much of a break. You also received approval for extract sales. Can you tell us a little bit about the approval and what that means for Delta 9?
And it's funny, so much work goes into these regulatory approvals. It's often, massive amounts of paperwork and very long lead times in working with the regulator. And then, we find certain months like December where, when it rains, it pours. And we not only had the expansion approval come in for the production operations. We were able to update investors on our forward-looking guidance for our production and distribution operations, but also then on the extract side. And a lot of the focus into the later part of last year was on these 2.0 products and the 2.0 product launch. So we were happy to be able to achieve an approval from Health Canada for essential sales of these 2.0 products. So it positions us well, I think, to begin to participate now into 2020 in the 2.0 products market. Uh, Effectively, our first look into these products is going to be a few different product lines. The first was our dried sift extract product. So it's a dry product extract, analogous to what a lot of people would refer to as keef, but essentially carries a potency of about 35% THC, demands very premium pricing, both in wholesale and in retail. We launched that product on January 6th this year through our own stores in Manitoba, as well as through some of our competitors or partner stores in Manitoba, and very strong sales that we're
Wow.
starting to get out the gates in terms of the 2.0 products just in that initial launch. Our next look forward is through our partnership with Westleaf Labs, based out of Calgary. They are manufacturing 6 different vape pen SKUs for us. We'll have the disposables as well as the 510 cartridges coming available to market in 3 different potency selections within the next few months. So that'll really be our first deployment into the 2.0 products in terms of these products that we're manufacturing in-house. But then, of course, there's the retail side where we had a very exciting launch of these products over December as they became available in the market.
That's great. That actually leads me into the next question. And it's the $1,000,000 question that we all want to know. So late in December, you provided an update on the launch of 2.0 products in your own retail stores. What have you seen from the launch of 2.0 products so far?
Yeah, so I mean, a ton of excitement. Kind of a flurry of media activity. Every news outlet wanted to know, what are these products? Are consumers excited? What forms do the products take? What manufacturers are on shelves? So we wanted to get a news release update out there for investors just so that they could start to get a sense, of what's going on. And I mean, more generally, retail over the last quarter, I think sales were quite strong. This is the second year in a row where we've seen, that the holiday shopping season, as much as it is for a lot of other retailers, starts to drive a lot of demand and excitement from the retail consumer. Um, I think there's no better thing for a retailer than having a new product launch or a whole new scope of product categories becoming available into the holiday shopping season. So this was, it was really great timing to see the 2.0 products start to hit store shelves in December. In terms of the first products that we had available, we had selections of the gummy or soft chew products. We've had chocolates, we've had cookies, we've had cannabis mints on the edible side of the spectrum. We've had the disposable vapes, we've had the cartridges, all hitting stores over December. In terms of the major manufacturers, we've seen products from Auxily Cannabis. I think, and we have to give a shout out to our partners at Auxily on this one. They were probably the leading manufacturer of 2.0 products in terms of the number of products that they brought to market in a very short period of time over December. But we have seen products from all the majors, Trailblazer, Organigram, Aurora, Canopy, kind of all the big guys, Kronos Group through Spinach and Cove and some of their brands. All of these did hit the shelves in terms of first deliveries. Since that time, we've seen kind of routine or cyclical stockouts of these products. We really can't keep the edibles on the shelf for very long. We launched the products. We put up announcements through our Instagram, through our consumer mailing lists, and those products are selling down very quickly. So, I think it's been very positive for us as a retailer to be launching these new SKUs. And in terms of some of the analytics behind it, we're seeing so far that these product SKUs are making up about 10 to 15% of overall revenue, that there's a pretty even distribution of the vaporizable products versus the edibles. So it seems to be about a 50-50 split between vapes and edibles. So interesting to see. I think some of the consumer dynamic coming in here, but no shortage of excitement from the consumers. And again, the inbound calls that we're getting at the store level and through our head office, through our customer service center, huge amount of, I think, pent up demand for these products. Of course, then we need to consider as well that, this was really just the bleeding edge. We're working with manufacturers very closely now on reorders. We're also working with manufacturers that have been notably present, the beverage manufacturers, on bringing their products into the market. Canopy Trust Beverages, which is the Hexo Molson Coors partnership, will be bringing beverages to market in the very near future. We're working with manufacturers on topicals, concentrates, really the full scope of these products, which were not available for sale in December, but are going to start trickling into the market over the next few months and quarters. And I think it's reasonable that we're going to see supply chain constraints over the next month to 2 months, very similar to what we saw last year with the initial launch of legalization. A lot of stores running low on products into January and February. But by the time Q2 rolls around, we expect these supply chain issues to be worked out. Again, a lot of these manufacturers have been, I think, very pleasantly surprised on the launch of these products and just how fast the sell-through is occurring. And again, as a retailer of these products, manufacturer of these products, these are all great news stories for us to hear. I think we're seeing similar stories out of Ontario today in terms of the first products hitting the OCS store shelves. I think a lot of people have been pointing to that the 2.0 product launch could be one of these material catalysts that kind of re-interests investors towards the space. And just to provide people with commentary from a retailer who does tens of millions of dollars in sales of cannabis products a year, there's been no shortage of excitement. These products are certainly having an impact. We're seeing new demographics of consumers coming into the store who have not been present in the past, who've been waiting for these products to launch, to start to come into the legal stores. And it's another tool in the tool belt to be trying to displace some black market supply. So, I think I can't speak positively enough about the 2.0 product launch. And I think we're just starting to see the positive impacts for industry when it comes to the launch of these products.
It's funny. I've been going to a lot of different dispensaries here in Vancouver just to kind of see what type of products are on the shelves. And the company that I saw the most out here was Aurora Cannabis for edibles. Literally every time the Spirit Leaf store that's here in Vancouver would have edibles, they sell out same day. They literally can't hold on to their edibles. And the only ones that were always left were the Aurora Mints. And nobody really wants them, but they're the only ones left, so everybody's buying them. So it's kind of interesting to see that they're blowing off the shelves as fast as they are. I didn't anticipate that they would be this popular, but they're hugely popular. And where I find that they're very popular, and maybe you can let me know if you see this as well, are with people that are over the age of 45. I'm noticing when I walk into the dispensaries, it's the 45-year-olds to 75-year-olds that really love the edibles. They're comfortable with it. They don't maybe want to smoke, maybe that's why. And they've never tried cannabis. So a lot of times they're walking into these dispensaries and they're asking a lot of questions about what is the effect of this product? How do I take it? How do I use it? Do you agree with that sentiment? Are you guys seeing a lot of, I guess Generation X up to baby boomers buying a lot of edibles? Are you seeing millennials buying edibles? Because I'm seeing, I think everyone's buying them, but for the most part, it feels to me like it's that 45 to 75-year-old age group that's really taking on a leadership role in buying edibles. Is that just me seeing that, or are you finding that to be the case?
Yeah, no, I mean, with the one caveat that, I don't know that we have enough sales data or experience around these categories to really hone in on the longer term demographics. But, I was fortunate. I got to spend some time in our highest traffic retail store here in Winnipeg over the holiday season. And it was right after the launch of the 2.0 products. We had a number of different SKUs and manufacturers in store that day. So it started to give you a sense of, who is it that's coming in to buy these products? And, similar to what you're seeing, I mean, we saw people come into the store and the commentary that they're giving is they have not been into a legal cannabis store since legalization. They've been waiting for non-smoking options. These are very certainly the people that are in the, 35 plus. age demographics. And realistically, they're excited about the prospect of these products. And I think there's been some concern around the legalization of these 2.0 products, where particularly the potency restrictions on the edible products are quite low. And are we really going to see the uptake from the consumer? But at least the initial feedback we're getting is that this 35 plus demographic, and these are the people who, frankly, they want 5 to 10 milligrams in a serving size. They don't want a 100 milligram gummy. A much lower dose is going to be an effective dose for these people. And, frankly, they're happy to start low and go slow. And again, the introduction of these product categories has started to pull those people into a store where they've never been before. And then our job as the retailer, and really a lot of our focus in our Delta 9 retail chain is, to make sure that we are providing some of the best customer service that we possibly can. That means educated product professionals who can, basically take these people aside and have a good chat about the products and how they might work, and, guide people towards having that fun consumer experience with cannabis. Because, ultimately, if we can create a positive consumer experience and a value proposition for these consumers, I mean, they're going to keep coming back. Particularly, you look at then categories like the drinkables, to provide a product that is less calories, no hangover, is going to give you the warm and fuzzies and that pleasurable consumer experience. That's a value proposition that I think is difficult to ignore. So, I again don't want to understate the importance of these categories in making it so that cannabis the legalized cannabis market in Canada is competitive versus black market, and also competitive versus beverage alcohol. And I think, we're starting to see some feedback in terms of the economic data that actually beer and liquor sales are starting to trend downward a little bit in Canada. And that's very interesting, I think, for the cannabis industry. There's been a lot of speculation that cannabis could be a significant competitor for beverage alcohol, as well as people in the other category going, no, the numbers for cannabis or the projections are hugely overstated. I think, if we're starting to put a dent into beverage alcohol in just the first calendar year of legalization, bodes well for the cannabis sector over the long term.
I agree with you 100%. It's very interesting to see what's happening in the cannabis sector. We're overall a sector that is a hyper-growth sector that overall, when you look at yourself and you look at all the other companies, a year ago, you guys were really not even close to where you are right now. Like, everybody has really grown. Like, everybody, for the most part, has really grown. You've grown your revenues. You've grown your customer base. You've grown your locations. You've grown your products on the shelves. Everything is just consistently growing, despite the fact that the majority, if not, I would say 90% of these companies that exist in this marketplace across North America are growing. The market cap of the entire sector has gone down dramatically. Like, as much as 300 to 400%, the entire market cap of the sector has come down from its all-time highs. So when you look at that overall, you have to kind of consider that the upside from here has to be at least 300 to 400% for us to go back to all-time highs. And when you look at the overall markets, overall, for all industries, you see that industries go up and down, but as industries grow, the market cap of those industries grow as well. So in my opinion, the cannabis sector is very heavily oversold. And I think there's incredible upside. And that's why we see companies like yourselves are jumping up close to 100% over the last 2 months, very quietly. Another company that's jumped up close to 100% over the last couple months is Canopy Growth. Canopy Growth has jumped up from $18 in Canada to over $30 in Canada over the last couple months, very quietly. Why do you think that is? I mean, in the past, companies like yourself, companies like Canopy Growth would jump 100% and they're the talk of the town. Everybody's talking about it. Now, cannabis companies are jumping up 100% very quietly with almost no fanfare. Is that just because everyone's scared? Are we in a sector right now where there's just so much uncertainty that nobody really knows what to expect? Why do you think that is right now, that you could see the biggest company, really, Canopy Growth, in the entire sector across North America, the most IP, the most intellectual properties, the most money in the bank, they go up, They get Drake. They go up from $18 to over 30 in Canada, and nobody's even talking about it. Is that just because of fear right now? Are people scared? What do you think is going on?
Yeah, I think it's a little of everything you've touched on. I mean, you end up with this investor fatigue, and certainly 8 months of a market downturn is going to do that to, even very disciplined investors. But, and to your first point, if you're an investor and you got into the cannabis space because your thesis on this was that over the next, 25 years, beyond legalization, that there was going to be real good and quality companies that are created and good brands, and that revenue growth for this industry on a year over year basis will eclipse virtually any other industry from a percentage perspective for years to come. You weren't wrong in your thesis, as you pointed to. We started to see kind of the first of that. It's just speaking to Delta 9. I mean, 2017, we did 940,000 in revenue. Last calendar year, we did 7.6 million. Tracking through our first 3 quarters of 2019, on pace to exceed 30 million in top line for 2019. So, the growth is real. Project that out 3, 5, 10 years in the future, even in just the Canadian market. And I think, that base thesis that cannabis is a growth market and it's here to stay, and there's a built-up consumer demographic that will buy these products. All of that stands true. But then it's that investor fatigue, I think, that comes into your point, where a company's share price can double within 4 weeks, and there's no positive news stories around it. Perhaps it was expected. Perhaps that's an acknowledgement that the space was significantly oversold to start to see the bottom and some of the rebound. But, I think it speaks to my previous points as well, that just for so long over last year, we saw people who had made a significant amount of money in the cannabis space, whether that was, retail investors that have cycled money through as the industry's grown, or institutionals or hedge funds, again, that have been very active in the space, who at points over last year just sat on the sideline and said, this is crazy. I may like a company, and yet there may be a bad news story come out for the rest of the sector tomorrow that takes their share price down. And that's a volatile market environment that's very tough to participate in. You either need to simply hold, you need to be dollar cost averaging down to start to see upside once the market does bottom, or you take your chips off the table and you look to participate once the market starts to reach a level of normalcy. And I think to an extent we've probably seen all of those factors throughout the last calendar year. But again, I'm enthusiastic that with the launch of these new products, with the rollout of additional cannabis stores in Ontario, as well as across the rest of Canada, I mean, reasonably, we're going to see the overall number of cannabis stores in Canada grow by at least a factor of double, if not triple, over the next calendar year. For every store opening, you've got a store that's buying opening inventory, hundreds of thousands of dollars of product. That drives demand in and of itself. It's new consumers coming into the market. Again, there's a significant market opportunity for growth in the next calendar year, both in retail and in wholesale and in the 2.0 products categories. So I think we're going to see positive developments throughout this calendar year. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods in terms of we've seen our last negative cannabis industry news story, but very certainly companies will start to post material positive results. And I think the overall sentiment will change and already is changing to an extent back to the positive.
Well, I can tell you that I have quite a large community of investors, and on Monday when the market started red, I got pissed, and I was just like, man, guys, get out of cannabis stocks, diversify. Like, we need to protect our money, because I have members that have lost millions in 2019, hundreds of thousands, millions everywhere. Like, this, right? So I'm sure people too, and I'm sure there's people before this made millions, but in 2019, it's been tough, right? I think across the board, most people can say that their portfolios, if they're investing in cannabis, were down between 60 to 90%. That's pretty standard across the board, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. So when I made that comment, I literally got under attack, because there's so many cannabis enthusiasts, they don't want to hear that. Like, this industry is different. even though the sector's down 60 to 80% since in the last year, there are so many people that do not want to hear that this sector is not going to succeed. There's so many people that don't want to hear that the sector is a failure. There's so many people that don't want to hear get out of cannabis stocks. This is why I believe this sector is going to be so powerful, because there's so many enthusiasts that even if they're down, they don't care. They believe in it. They're going to continue to invest in it. And I actually got under attack in my own group chats for making a comment saying we need to diversify, because as an investment community, you never want to see your investors lose. I want to see my investors win. At the same time, I don't want to stop investing in cannabis. But if cannabis is losing people money, maybe we should be investing in Apple. Maybe we should be investing in Facebook. Maybe we should be investing in gold right now until cannabis comes up. I just think as a community, we need to diversify. It doesn't mean that we should get out of cannabis. It just means that maybe when it's going down the way it has been and being under attack the way it has been, that's not the best time to buy. Maybe we should just wait until the dust settles and then we start to come up and see a real trend reversal to start investing. I just think as investors, we need to be smarter. We can't just be throwing our money at picks and hoping they're going to explode like they did in 2017, like they did in 2018. Because in 2019, if you did that, you probably lost. And in 2020, I think we all need to be smarter, better, more educated investors, myself included. And this is why I love to do these interviews, to get to know the companies a little better, to get to know the people behind the companies, to understand the revenue growth, the revenue model, how the company is going to get closer to that EBITDA, positive EBITDA, how a company is going to be able to really grow their business. And I think it makes a big difference to be able to have this engagement. And I think that investors appreciate it because there's 440 companies across North America right now to invest in. How do you know which ones to put your money into? When in 2019, I think there was maybe 10 that went up out of 440. Like, that's a staggering statistic considering that we're in the midst of a market melt up on the broader markets. Overall, Dow Jones at all-time highs, S&P 500 at all-time highs, NASDAQ at all-time highs. That's the part that's so frustrating, is that while everything else has been growing, and these cannabis stocks and companies are actually growing, the sector has been going down. Now, my opinion is because it's under attack by the short sellers. I truly believe that this entire sector has been targeted unfairly. And I think that if you actually go to Marijuana Index and you look at the news, it's all lawsuits, 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 lawsuits. And it's sad to see what has happened here in this sector, where it's no longer positive news. It's no longer excitement. It's riddled with lawsuits. And this has really, in my opinion, been the number one reason why this sector has gone down. People are afraid. People are scared. They don't know what to think. They look in the company's press release, and instead of seeing news, they see shareholder lawsuit, Aurora Cannabis, shareholder lawsuit, Hexo, shareholder lawsuit, Canopy Growth. And it's literally everywhere now. Whereas a year ago, it was like one or two companies. It was like Kronos Group, CVSI. Now, you fast forward a year later, and it's like everywhere. So what do you think about that? These shareholder lawsuits, these short tactics where they're essentially using this tactic of, hey, you know what? We're going to buy a stock, and if it goes down, we're going to sue you, and we're going to get all the shareholders who lost money to come together and create a shareholder lawsuit, which is A, going to go on your company's press release, create massive amount of fear. B, is going to now cost the company money in legal fees. C, is now going to potentially cost the money for the company to settle. D, now the company may have to settle with the shorter. So now you've got all this extra money that's going out the doors, which is the number one reason why these shorters are doing this, to hurt these companies' financials so that they can go out there and write another short report and say, look, I told you the company's losing money. Look at all the money they're losing. Look at their financials. They're the reason why the financials are hurting. What do you think about this? Because this is getting ugly.
Yeah, it's I mean the overall market, in cannabis where it is right now, reminds me a lot of the financial services sector. Call it 2009, maybe into 2010. But no one wanted to invest, no one wanted to go long. You've been hearing for the last year or more that everything was going to zero. There was going to be an absolute financial apocalypse for the sector, and that was actually at a time when I was starting my career in financial services. Prior to my life in cannabis. And at the same time, I had seasoned, veterans of the financial industry telling me, there is no better time to be starting a career in financial services than right now. There's no better time to be buying stock than right now. And I think a lot of that holds true for the cannabis space. To your second point, this is where people need to diversify. This is not as easy as throwing money into cannabis stock XYZ and it's going to double over the next few months because cannabis, this is a year where people need to, certainly do their due diligence. Again, look for companies that are producing positive results. But, where a market corrects the way that the cannabis market has, and to your point, the industry market capitalization has come down so far, that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity where you missed getting into Canopy at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 to now get in
Totally.
at a level that is a valuation that I think is much more reasonable and right sized to their ability to produce financial results over the next few years. So, I think with the correction comes opportunity. Obviously a concern that I think across Canadian capital markets, short selling in general. Obviously, short selling plays a part in our financial markets in terms of ensuring an orderly market. But certainly as that relates to small and mid cap stocks, that's where manipulation can really become an issue. And you see short attacks. At one point over this late summer, I think our short position during a 2 week period was 40-something% of the overall
Wow.
trade in stock.
Wow.
That's not short selling trying to get a hold on or to counter the long sentiment in a stock. That's not an over stock looking to correct, and the short sellers really, getting in at the top to try and ride something down. That's market manipulation. It's not just our stock. We've seen it across the sector. We've also seen in terms of our own stock that short position come down, where it's now over a 2 week period a very small fraction, low single digits in terms of overall trading volume, and that's something that's quite a bit more sustainable. But it becomes difficult for small and mid cap companies to mount an effective defense against these short sellers. And, particularly as you said, when that's coupled with, either shareholder lawsuits or real negative news press coming out on these companies, well, frankly, if the news is merited, then there probably is something behind that short attack. But, in other circumstances, we're simply talking about manipulation. But, I think then as that comes back to a lot of the investors that may be listening today who are long on the cannabis space in general. Again, they feel that there's this long opportunity, and Canadian companies are, at the leading edge of a global trend towards cannabis liberalization of these laws, which is going to provide for market opportunities. Again, pick the right names. Look for those companies that are producing significant earnings growth. We always try and guide investors towards companies that produce a significant number of key performance indicators. That's to me essential when you're looking to invest, to know, how is the company performing? If it's a cultivation company, how much are they cultivating? Where's their inventory at? How much are they selling? What's their average selling price? We provide all of these KPIs for our production business. We provide a whole other set of KPIs for our retail segment, and we provide a whole other set of KPIs for our business-to-business segment, where we sell supporting infrastructure and consulting services in the sector. And now is our opportunity to really be picking the winners in the cannabis space, to see that decoupling of share prices. And again, to me, there's no shortage of opportunity coming into this year. As we start to shake off some of the investor fatigue that I think we've all had from the last calendar year.
Now, shifting to the new year, you have updated the market on GrowPod sales and B2B activities. Can you give us an update on this?
Yeah, so I mean, we talk KPIs, and now that our year end is closed out, we've started to update the market on our three main business segments. The first update we brought to market last week was on our business to business segment. So that's sale of our proprietary grow pods, consulting and licensing services for licensed, pre-licensed companies, helping them through the Health Canada process, helping them on things like security, facility and infrastructure design for their projects, and sales of cannabis genetics. Most notably, I think from this segment last year, we delivered 89 grow pods throughout the year. That led to top line revenue from just grow pod sales of $5.6 million. That was up from six grow pod deliveries and $240,000 in the previous year. And we get a lot of questions from investors. Why do we have this B2B segment? Is it really material? Is it not a distraction from the rest of our business, where perhaps we should have more of our focus? And to me, it's much more than simply selling picks and shovels. We are creating an ecosystem for cannabis entrepreneurs to be starting their own businesses. Again, we've pointed to, as a part of our infrastructure development here, that we have significant excess capacity in bottling and distribution. Often when we're bringing on these craft cultivators, they're looking for supply agreement. We sell them the infrastructure, we sell them the genetics, we'll purchase the offtake from these producers for distribution out to our distribution network from there. To me, creating that type of ecosystem for smaller craft cannabis companies to participate in the cannabis industry is kind of a missing piece right now in the Canadian sector. You have a lot of smaller scale growers that frankly can produce high quality product. They need a platform to do it, someone to help them with licensing. We can package all of that. We can see significant revenues, again, material revenue from grow pod sales, a significant upswing from our previous year, where we really just started to scratch the surface on the B2B side. So, I see our B2B segment as becoming much more material for us. Well, obviously in the 2019 results, but as we look forward into 2020, apart from a lot of the shakeout in the capital markets, these are all private businesses. They're raising money privately. There's no shortage of demand for these companies looking to still participate in the cannabis space. And we can help facilitate that. We can diversify revenue for our investors and give them exposure to this whole other piece of growth that's occurring in the cannabis space, which, you look at your Auroras, your Canopies, none of them have an infrastructure play as a part of them like we do. And, we're really looking to start to give investors that sense of this is a material business unit for us. It's starting to produce positive outcomes.
Wow, that's great. Now, I know you got to go, so we're going to leave you with one more question. And great updates, by the way, today. Thank you so much for being here and updating us on everything that's happening. And I love your insight in the sector. As one of the youngest CEOs in the sector, you've done really, really well. As you look forward, I know December 31st was your year end. Can you give investors some guidance on what we might see for year-end results?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with a December 31 year end, obviously now we're into the year end audit procedures. We are allowed 90 days, TSX rules, to release our year ends, but we've gotten into the pattern for our investors of providing guidance to the market within about 4 to 6 weeks of the end of our reporting period. So people should expect, mid-February, they'll start to see that guidance.
Okay.
Guiding for top line and some key performance indicators. As well, we'll be releasing operations updates for our production and wholesale unit and our retail unit. We've already done our business to business unit last week. So there'll be a few kind of key updates for investors over the next 4 to 6 weeks. From there, we will release our formal release date, which will be somewhere in mid-March for our year-end financials, our schedule for our analysts and investor calls, and really how investors can get a sense of all of these year-end results at their fingertips. So all of that to come over the next few weeks.
Very good. And one quick question. Are you guys planning to open up in Ontario? And if so, when?
Good question. It's something we are looking at. Right now, BC and Ontario are both markets which have certain restrictions around total vertical integration. So we have to get a little bit creative in terms of the corporate structure, looking at it as call it a quasi franchise model where we own a minority and yet are contributing all of those components that one would expect in a franchise. Things like the IT and HR backend systems, training, to make it have all of the look and feel of a Delta 9 cannabis store that would be corporate owned here in Winnipeg. So, it's something we are looking at. Obviously, as I pointed to earlier, Ontario opening up is going to be, one of the driving factors for performance for the sector this year. We certainly want to participate. Investors should expect some announcements in terms of our strategy for expansion in retail across Canada as a part of that retail update in the next few weeks.
Well, that's all I have today. John, thank you so much for giving us an update. Congratulations on all of your success so far. I hope 2020 brings you all of the goals that you're looking to achieve. And for everyone that's watching, take a look at Delta 9 Cannabis, a company on the rise. They are up almost 100% in the last couple months, very quietly. And I believe this is a company that has a lot of upside yet to come. Thank you so much for your time, John. Keep up all the great work, and let's have you on the show again soon.
Thanks, Rich. Always a pleasure.
Have a great day, my friend. That's John, the CEO of Delta 9 Cannabis. Thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a great day.